Hour number one, a lot spent on the negative portion of that mixed bag. We will start hour number two by talking about the positive side of that mixed bag because Saturday was a pretty good day for the Arizona State Sun Devils. By the way, great weekend for the Sun Devils overall. ASU hockey sweeps Denver in their weekend series. The number one team in the country swept them, beat them in both games. So that was a big deal. Shout out to Sun Devil hockey for that big weekend sweep of the number one team in the country. But it was a Saturday matinee affair. It was BYU coming into town with everything on the line. We talked about everything being on the line for the Cardinals, everything on the line for ASU. You lose, it's over. There is no path realistically. I'm sure I could go through the various results that would lead ASU to be in the Big 12 title game at 3 losses. But it would pretty much be over. It would be very slim, the scenarios for ASU to get into the Big 12 title game with a loss. A win, and you control everything. It is one game against the University of Arizona on Saturday with a spot in the Big 12 championship on the line. You win, you're in. Everything is up to you. That was what faced Sam Levitt, Cam Scatterbo, Jordan Tyson, Kenny Dillingham, and the entire ASU program on Saturday. And you could feel the buzz in that stadium. I live about 45 minutes away from Sun Devil Stadium in Tempe. I honestly, I could probably, if I was outside, you probably could feel the rumble. That's how loud that place was. That place was ready for that type of environment. They were ready for that type of moment. They were ready for that type of game. They embraced everything about hosting a ranked team in BYU with the backdrop of the Big 12 title game being in the balance. They embraced every part of it. The team embraced every part of it. This game literally had everything. Literally everything. Had controversy at the end, had chaos at the end, had chaos in the fourth quarter, had the excitement, had the roller coaster ride that is college. It was everything that a college football game should be. That is what ASU and BYU provided to us Saturday afternoon. I guess we'll do this in chronological order. That's probably the best way to do it. ASU does what ASU does. They got out to an early lead by running the football, taking care of business. They got a turnover early in the game that was huge for them, and they jumped out to a 14-0 lead. And the place is buzzing. You could start to feel it, even though it was still early in the second quarter. You could just feel like, oh my goodness, we're up 14-0 against BYU. The Michael Scott gif from The Office, it's happening. That's what I think the building felt like, the stadium felt like. It's what I felt like watching the game at home. Everything was happening. A 2-score lead at home against BYU. We talked about how this BYU team had shown us the warning signs of a team that was ripe to be picked off. And the Sun Devils started out 14-0. And then Kenny Dillingham. The only thing I could describe it as, it's like in basketball, where a guy that's on the bench, a rotational player, comes in and he hits a couple of threes, and then you get the turnover in transition, and he dribbles it up the court, and it's just the ultimate heat check of heat checks from the logo, right? That's what Kenny Dillingham decided to do by up 14-0 at home to go for the onside kick. I mean, that's the only way to describe it. It was the heat checks of all heat checks, what Kenny Dillingham decided to do. And they caught BYU napping. It was the perfectly placed onside kick. He said in his halftime interview with ESPN that they were going for the squib, and so they decided that if they were going to squib it, might as well try to catch them off guard. Well, they did. It hit the BYU special team player basically right in the chest. Thing popped up straight in the air. ASU was all over it, and then they turned that into a touchdown, and it's 21-0. Like, it's 21-0, and people are starting to book their trip to Arlington. You could feel it. Tickets were being searched for. Flights were being bought. People were thinking about Arlington, Texas, Jerry World, AT&T Stadium, a date with Colorado. By the way, you were probably checking scores in the building. You saw that Kansas was beating up on Colorado, so you didn't know who you were going to play, but you were getting ready to go to Arlington. And then the wheels kind of started to fall off in the second half. A field goal by BYU at halftime gets them a chance. And then I think the second half of this football game, there's a lot of layers to unpack. And I think let's start with layer number one, and that is Kenny Dillingham's aggressiveness as a coach because he has shown he's going to go for it. Now, I think there's two parts of this. He overall, as a coach, is extremely aggressive. He just believes in it. It's the way modern football is played at every level. High school, college, pro, you're aggressive. That's what you do. The other part of it is, let's just call a spade a spade. ASU does not have a kicker they trust. They might have a better chance seeing if I have some eligibility left or if producer Dylan is available because they don't have a kicker I think they trust to put points on the board. So they already are more aggressive. And then they also don't have a kicker they trust. So they're going to go for it. Now, part of the going for it is if you don't get it, you kind of hand momentum to the other team. And they started to do that. And they did that, and then BYU goes right down the field. They score to make it 21-9. And then ASU immediately responds with the touchdown to make it 28-9 on 2 plays. And then BYU just kept chipping away. Just kept chipping away. Just kept trying to find a way back into this football game. They scored 2 touchdowns to make it 28-23. And then there was the chaos of the last couple of minutes of this game. But ASU picks up a 28-23 victory. They move to 9-2. It is as simple as this. Beat UofA. And I know there's a bunch of tiebreakers out there of what the matchups are. It is this simple because I did the work. During the game on Saturday, I actually did the work. I looked at all these teams. If they ended in a 4-way tie, I looked at who the common opponents were, and I did the math. ASU beats UofA on Saturday. It's this simple. They're going to Arlington. They will be playing in the Big 12 title game. Who they play, that's up to everybody else and their decisions and who they beat and who beats who and results. ASU wins, they are in. They will have a 10-2 season, and they will be a representative in the Big 12 title game.